Good morning folks, welcome back to Noth Farm. We've got a beautiful sunny day here in northeast Scotland. So Rosa's just done the morning milking. That's going really well. Managed to get, how many litres did we get today, Rosa? 1.6 litres, so things are going up. Like we said in our previous vlog, Damson, our Dexter that we're milking right now, she calved actually over 6 months ago. So obviously her milk production is tailing down, and she hadn't been regularly hand milked. So we're basically bringing her back into milk production for the next wee while, only until our Jersey calves at the start of July, and then we'll dry Damson off so that we can focus on Hazel, the Jersey. So we started with something like, what did we get from Damson on like day one? We only got about 700 millilitres on the second day of milking Damson. Plenty of fresh milk for us and my mum. Obviously not enough to start experimenting with collecting the cream and making butter and all those good things, but we'll get there. And so the cows have been grazing through this silvopasture system. This is where we integrate fruit trees within grazing. The buyer is behind me there. There's Damson and Hazel out in our sacrifice paddock. They've been grazing through these grazing cells in between the rows of fruit trees for the last few days, starting with the cell closest to their shed, and we've been rotating them up through the grazing until we basically get up to the shepherd's hut up there, and then either they'll start again depending on the grass growth, or we'll move them on to another field or into the woods. But today we're moving their grazing cell because they've definitely taken this down to a level that is probably slightly beyond needing moved on. We're just getting back to how this works, working with cows for the first time in a long time compared to goats. Very different habit of grazing than to goats, so it's just taking us a while to get our plan for our grazing, and it's also still relatively early in the year and a slow start with the cold spring that we had for the grass growth. So Rosa's rolling up our movable fencing, this Gallagher Smart fence, which has proven to be fantastic. It's obviously total overkill with the amount of strands that it's got for our lovely docile dairy cows. This was bought for the goats and for sheep, but it's actually totally fine to use, and Damson, the Dexter, was used to this. Where the farm she came from were also using this fencing system. So we're just rolling up the fence, and we're going to be moving up to this area of grazing above us. is altering my work.
Okay. So as James was saying, we're still very much getting used to the cows within our grazing system that we've designed here. So that's why today we're doing a smaller section that's basically a third of one of the east to west grazing cells that we've designed between each of these on contour tree rows. This is just so that we can concentrate the cows in a smaller area, and maybe that will change their grazing behaviour. Just hopefully make sure that they eat some of the things that they've chosen not to eat in the cells that we've had them grazing in further down in this system, whereby they've had a larger area and they've actually left the cow parsley, the docks. They've just gone for kind of like the grasses. So we just want to see if that changes anything, and then what we'll be doing is just opening up these reels here, which is why we've chosen to have the reels at the end here joining each other. We'll open these up and extend them further into this grazing cell. We'll do 1/3 per day, so it'll be 3 days within this grazing cell. So we'll see how that works. This is something we've changed, as you may have noticed over the vlogs. We've changed this whole Westfield system recently over the past couple of years. We're still finishing that, but we've changed basically from north to south tree rows to on contour tree rows that are more of a forest garden design as well. So there's actually more going on in each of them. It is more complex, it's definitely more beautiful. I think we are enjoying working with these on contour plantings. I certainly am actually quite enjoying making the fencing along these. It's nicer to walk back and forth along the contour. We've done this partly as well so that each of the grazing cells that we've got that run east to west join a north to south laneway that takes the cows all the way back down to the calf paddock, which is their kind of yard that goes with their house. And so if we decide to have them able to access that, or to bring them in and out easily in the morning or the evening, to stay in the barn at night or overnight, or just for milking, all depending on the situation, or calving, things like that, this design means that we can always link them back to their home. So we're now just working out how our fencing that we've got can join together and be as quick to move and flexible as possible within that system. This is going to be a system that's just growing and growing over the next few years. These tree rows are going to look so different in a few years. Really excited.
That's the cows into their fresh grazing. Love seeing this bit of the job. So the flies are starting to come out now, we've noticed, starting to irritate the cows quite a bit. It's another good reason for the fact that the cows can walk down to the shade of the cow shed, to be honest. Definitely noticed that there's less fly pressure in there, and quite often find them on a hot day like today in the shade of the byre. Also, we don't have really established trees yet in this section of the farm, so there isn't much natural shade for them yet. There's a small area of poplar at the end of this grazing strip that they can access some shade, which is good. So with this warm weather, we're going to go and check out the chickens. We haven't shown you the new chicken system that we've built over the last few months. Their permanent house right now is an old polytunnel, and we've got a few edits still to do to that design, especially now that the weather is heating up. So this time last year we just had a small flock of front yard chickens, a little group of them living in an enclosed run in our front garden. Towards the end of last year we decided that we wanted to up our chicken numbers so that we've got more eggs for the house, but also so that we could sell some. So last October we ended up getting around 16 new chickens. Point of lay, pullets, 4 different varieties: Bluebell, Light Sussex, Cuckoo Marron, and some Highlines. And we kept them actually right behind me here in an area that's often been called Goose Wood, because we've often kept the geese there, which we are right now. Last October, when the point of lay hens arrived, we merged them with the flock from our front garden and brought them all over here in the Chickshaw, our movable chicken house. So we kept them here for a month or so, but we knew we wanted to build them a more permanent area to live and to be our laying flock. And so we looked towards this small polytunnel. Now this has been here for years. This was the first polytunnel that I put up when I moved to the farm back in 2012. This was our only indoor growing space, and over the years it's had multiple functions as our needs have changed. Starting as an indoor growing space attached to what was the original kitchen garden in this area, it then became a nursery for the market garden. And then when we got our large polytunnel, which is currently our only large indoor growing space, the need to use this as a nursery left, and we ended up just using this for growing extension hot climate crops like the tomatoes. We did a lot of tomatoes in here. And then when we started really just putting tomatoes in the large tunnel, this polytunnel went a bit vacant, and we ended up using it at times as a winter area for the goats. And then now we've decided to utilize it as a chicken house. One of the ways that we enjoy keeping chickens the most is in what we call the straw yard, which is a large enclosed fenced area that we regularly bring organic material like straw and old hay and bedding from the goats or the cow shed, and we bring it to the chickens. And the chickens have this large space to be able to scratch around and do their chicken thing. 6-foot fences, very safe, keeping all the predators out, and attached to it is a house. And so that's what we've done here. It's a system that we've used for many years on and off since I've been keeping chickens. The straw yard. This is the largest straw yard we've ever built, and so far it's working really well. As I mentioned, the straw yard is a large area attached to the chicken house or containing the chicken house. We've used this small polytunnel as the house, and what we found is one of the best things about using the polytunnel is that it creates such a dry environment for the chickens. It's something that in our incredibly moist and wet climate, the chickens really benefit from having a dry space. It also means that we've got a covered space to come into. We can walk straight into this porch where we've got access to the nest boxes, so we can get the eggs under cover ourselves. It's a great storage space as well. We keep all the grain and food and electric nets and extra waterers and feeders and anything that's chicken related, we can keep it in here. And then we've got the actual area for the chickens themselves, which includes the nest boxes and a roost and the feeding area. You can see the floor level is going up because we use a deep bedding system, so we regularly bring in fresh bedding and add it in here, and this is composting in situ with all the chicken manure, and eventually we'll muck this out and make some fantastic compost from it. But it's just enough space for our 25 odd chickens that we've got now. 2 areas for nest boxes which we can close off at night time. This side one has been closed off. We were using that as a broody hen house. The roosting area and their feed and water, and then direct access out into this very large straw yard. Now we haven't finished the design. Like I said, we started this at the end of last year. I think we put all the fences up around October or start of November. This was a really overgrown area. This has seen so many changes as well over the years, just like the polytunnel. It's gone through various different changes. This was our main kitchen garden in 2012, 13, 14, 15. It's been a tree nursery. We've grazed the goats in here when it's got overgrown. So when we brought the chickens into this area, it was very overgrown. There were a few trees left from the nursery days. This little cluster of trees is the remnants of some of the trees which we never managed to get out from the tree nursery. So the chickens did an amazing job at clearing this. As you can see, it's quite barren now and compacted. We've got a plan to remedy that. The bottom area is where we collect all the organic matter that the chickens work on for us. Because we're on a slope coming down to that southern fence line, whenever we add organic matter, for instance when we muck out the cow or goat shed as it was, we bring the bedding here, wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow or trailer load after trailer load of straw and manure, and we dump it in here. Because of the slope, chickens and gravity work together, and it all ends up getting scratched down to this smaller area where we've narrowed the fencing. And we did that on purpose so that we could use it as a way of collecting all this organic material once the chickens have done their job at scratching through it, eating what they can find, adding their own manure. Right now it's this spongy, soft layer of organic material that's half a meter thick or so right now. If we just dig down, we can find, you can see, getting this lovely soon to be composting material, which for right now is fantastic for the chickens to dig through. And when we want to, we could harvest this and use it as a mulch, or help aid it, pile it up and aid it into composting. So a really great place for the chickens to be. It's also surrounded by food forests, so they have access into our areas of mixed fruit trees. There's comfrey all around the edges of the straw yard, so that chickens can self-forage some lovely comfrey. And along with the trees which were left from the tree nursery, we've got some Aleagnus autumn olive. We've got a big stand of blackcurrants. These were actually the first blackcurrants that we ever took cuttings from. The clones of these are all over the farm. There's a lovely big area of gooseberries that the chickens use for getting shade, or also, I guess, potentially to get away from any predators from above, to hide under the thorny gooseberries. We're going to be adding more shrubs and trees in here, basically creating a chicken food forest contained in this straw yard. We've got some mulberries, some medlar to add in here, so that we can treat this like an orchard as well as a chicken area, and the chickens can make use of any windfalls. They're already jumping up and eating these green immature blackcurrants off the bushes right now. We're saying all that, how much we do love this system. It's time that they left it, because we always planned that they would be here from around October till May. Really just a great place for them to be in the winter months. And now really we would really love to see them out on some pasture. It also means that they're not in the hot polytunnel. We open the doors every morning as early as we can. There is ventilation through the doors, but it is very hot inside the tunnel now, and of course they do have to go in to lay eggs. I've got an idea of how to remedy that. I'm going to put some shade cloth over it, and we've also got some hops which are growing that we can train up and over the tunnel to act as natural shade. But we want to get the chickens out anyway. We love following our main ruminant with the chickens so that the chickens can scratch through the manure, spread it around for us, reduce any fly populations, and of course just for the health of the chicken to be on the green grass as well. So that's what we're going to do this evening. We're going to bring the Chickshaw, which is parked on the side of the polytunnel. We're going to bring it in to the yard, and then I'll just pick the birds off the roost one by one at night time and put them in the Chickshaw so that tomorrow morning we can move them out. I've already made the grazing cell for the chickens using poultry netting, a nice big space, just about 3 grazing cells below where we've just put the cows into. We might end up keeping a small flock of chickens in here and have a sort of field flock, the larger younger birds out in the Chickshaw. So while the majority of the chickens are out of the straw yard, I'm actually going to restrict the small group of hens that we leave here from accessing this upper area of the straw yard so that we can seed it with a grazing mix. They really have been on here a long time and it's very compacted. We'd like to make it a little bit more than just a mud or dust bath. So we're going to seed it with a nice varied grazing mix and keep them off, and by the time the majority of them come back, probably around the start of autumn, hopefully that will have grown and they'll get a nice bit of grass to graze on. So we'll catch the chickens tonight, put them in the Chickshaw, take them over to join the cows in the Westfield silvopasture where they can start their own rotation, and keep our little house flock here. But I think I'm going to go ahead and put this shade cloth over and a climbing support for the hops, just in case we end up bringing all the chickens back for some reason. We're still in the hot weather, and also for this small group of hens that we're going to be keeping in here. We don't want them to get too hot either. It really is just on these extremely hot days, extremely hot for Scotland. Just in case we get some more hot days like we're currently getting, I'll put some shade cloth over, and hopefully that will make a more comfortable place for them to be. Well, there it is. Is it any shadier? Mildly. Is it a thing of beauty? No. Is it interesting to look at and causes one to scratch their head and ponder what's going on? Yeah. Yeah, that'll do. Alright, it is very hot today, and as you can probably see from my purple face, it is a hot one. We're going to grab some lunch and then we're going to head up to the pond and cool off.